Hello, and a warm welcome to the latest episode of the AI Edge podcast presented by Leena AI. Today, we are joined by Girish Ganesan, Executive Vice President and Chief People Officer at S&P Global. Welcome, Girish.
Thanks so much for having me, Adit.
Perfect. Thank you for doing this, Girish. To get into the thick of things, first, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about S&P Global and about your role there as well.
Absolutely. Well, as the Chief People Officer at S&P Global, I lead a global people team, or HR function, as commonly known in the industry, that supports about over 40,000 of our employees in more than 41 countries. And our core mission is to attract, grow, and retain exceptional talent while we build a high-performing culture. And that means everything from leadership development to career mobility to employee experience and capability building. Now, for those of you who may not know S&P Global, we deliver essential intelligence that powers the global markets. We provide data, insights, and workflow solutions that helps all sorts of industries, from governments to businesses, making decisions with conviction. And my team applies the same ethos inward by bringing essential intelligence to how we lead our people.
Amazing, Girish. I remember walking into when I was completing my undergrad. I think you guys came on like day one or day two of placements. And I remember walking into an interview. I don't remember if it was on campus or off campus. It's 10 years ago now. But I remember walking into the interview and coming off feeling like, what, this is a bunch of bright people I'd love to, work for. I, of course, did not work for anybody. Started, Leena, but I really commend you guys on the kind of talent you guys have across the world. So congratulations on that, Girish. But today we are here for Agentic AI, and I'd love to kick us off by asking you about your we've seen so many different waves now with AI, LLMs, then Gen AI basically, and now of course over the last 1.5 years there's been a push towards agentic. As the Chief People Officer, how do you envision Agentic AI enhancing the people function, talent management, organization development, etc. in global teams like yours?
Great question, Adit. Before I sort of get into this question, I also want to acknowledge we do have great people and great talent. And that's one of the reasons I joined S&P Global about 4 years ago. And it's music to my ears to hear that you still remember your experience from campus hiring. Just this past month, I've had the pleasure to talk to about 300 of our interns across the globe, virtually, albeit. And also more recently to about 50 of our junior summer experience program interns that we hire from high school. S&P believes in investing in talent, and it's so good to hear that you still vividly remember your experience.
I do. I am. Yep.
So this brings me to Agentic AI and your question. To me, Agentic AI is a leap forward, right? It empowers individuals and teams to act with intelligence and autonomy while drawing those deep data insights, to put it simply. And for a large, complex organization like ours, it is truly a game changer in how we can manage talent. And the way we are looking at Agentic AI, and I think a lot of my peers across industries are looking at it, from a talent management perspective, its potential can range from personalized learning and development paths, like how Agentic AI can act as an adaptive career co-pilot by crafting development journeys that are tailored to each employee's aspiration, performance, even skill gaps and business needs at scale, to, on the demand side, like dynamic workforce planning. They can stimulate workforce scenarios, and the way we envision it is like proactively recommend hiring and upskilling or redeployment strategies based on shifting business priorities or economic conditions. I'm imagining a world where, think of it as AI-powered chief talent officer that scans your org and says, you have a data science skill gap in 9 months, and here's how we're going to fix it, right? And that's where the world is headed. To the potential of having intelligent talent matching. So by analyzing like role requirements and individual potential, not just resumes of people. Agentic AI can match people to roles or projects more effectively and can really propel internal mobility that many organizations grapple with, especially when you're a large global organization. On the organizational development side, where I see the potential is Agentic AI can continuously monitor organizational health by analyzing signals from surveys to collaboration tools to employee feedback to really anticipate things that are so important for every organization as we're grappling with change, from burnout to silos to disengagement, before they become systemic issues. And then when you think about change management during transformation, it can dynamically identify resistance pockets and suggest engagement tactics and tailor communications to different employee personas so that change management is more tailored. That's the power of agentic AI. And so we are actively exploring agentic AI in areas like career pathing, upskilling, and employee engagement to suggest tailored learning journeys based on where someone's current skills are at or where their aspirations are and the market trends, so that we can create the self-guided development experience for our people. And today we also at S&P Global use predictive models to understand attrition, risk, and engagement signals to act more proactively. So I think of agentic AI in talent management and org development, to put simply, as a GPS, that is clear on its destination, but is always recalculating and always responsive to show you alternative paths to make sure you get to your destination.
Wow. No, I think that makes a lot of sense, Girish. I think uh, I like to kind of always think about it's like take humans and scale them. Not, so there are some things that make us human for sure, and that I don't think AI is there to replicate. But like take all the things that you could not provide to your people just because of the lack of, like, you can't hire 10,000 HR team. That's of course not going to happen, right? But with agentic AI, there can be a single agent that, or single, as we call it internally at Leena, there can be an AI colleague that can now be scaled up as much as you want to build that personalization for every single person to help them achieve what they want to achieve out of their professional careers. I think that was very relevant, Girish. You mentioned about a couple of things that you were doing. I think you mentioned about attrition analysis, etc., that you're already doing with AI. To whatever you can talk about, openly, can you share some of the use cases that you are already working on, and what are like the impacts, either any type of AI, agentic AI, LLMs, anything that you've already implemented, and what are the impact that it has already had?
Yeah, no, great question, Adit. So one of the use cases that I like to talk about is the engagement signals that I mentioned. So twice a year, we do our engagement survey. In the middle of the year, it's a pulse survey to just check in as to what the sentiments of our employees are. And then towards the end of the year, we do a full annual survey. They're both full census, but the pulse survey is a mini version of the full survey we do annually. We've been using agentic AI right now to understand not just the quantitative aspects that already has algorithms baked in it to tell us as to where we stand from an engagement perspective, but all the verbatim comments that we get. How do we generate themes from that to really help us understand what we need to focus on from an action planning perspective? So we have an internal AI platform called Spark Assist. And every algorithm or prompt that is created in Spark Assist is known as Spark. So we've created a Spark for our engagement survey that is available to our people leaders to be able to generate themes from all the verbatim comments, so that they're not only focused on what comes out of the survey platform, they have an additional reference point utilizing AI to go deeper into what their employees are saying, so that they can truly act on the sentiments and come up with targeted action plans.
Oh, very interesting. If I have to think about Sparks, they are like, just to make sure our audience understand this. So Sparks are like the GPT store, like they're kind of like the GPT store thingy where you can,
That's
and
right.
you okay, and you've created like many of these, for different departments and then for HR teams as well.
That's right. So essentially, we are now up to over 2,000 registered Sparks. These are different prompts that our employees have created. based on where they can see utilization of AI. It ranges from summarizing meeting minutes to editing content to uh, email crafting to analyzing sentiment feedback themes, and these are available as part of a Spark store, as we call it. So imagine just like an app store where you can go download different apps, you can actually go utilize different prompts that have been created by our employees.
Wow, I think that's I think a very interesting takeaway for our audience here. Like you're kind of crowdsourcing agents, if you may, right? Like you're not complex agents, but like at least like uh, prompted agents you can quickly crowdsource from your people. I think that's a brilliant way of getting real life use cases. Else what happens is there are a bunch of ideas which like only managers and above or leaders kind of have to think of, and then somebody goes and builds them. But I think that's a brilliant way of making people, kind of giving people the opportunity of using it, and then also showing their work, which will motivate them to keep doing more. I think that's amazing. um,
Absolutely, Adit. And if I could just add, our sort of AI uh, vision has been about strategy top down, what our CEO and our executive leadership team's vision is as to how we deploy AI and what are the major use cases where we can deploy AI. But it's also been a lot of grassroots effort, and that's where the Spark Assist platform comes in. So we've got almost three layers of mobilization when it comes to our AI strategy. There's the top leadership that reports into the CEO that is deciding where they want to invest in AI. Then we have an AI council that is made up of senior leaders from across the organization who are truly looking at how do we galvanize the organization towards what we need to do from an AI perspective. And then there's the bottom-up effort, exactly to what you talked about, crowdsourcing these sparks, because we believe that our employees and our people managers are closest to the minutia of what goes on within the organization. So we need them and their ideas to be able to figure out where we should be deploying AI as we move forward.
that's amazing, Girish. That's just amazing. Now, a lot of companies kind of they have the first two, don't have the third. So that's a good takeaway from this conversation. A lot of leaders, when they speak to me and when we have conversations, they say that the AI committees, they face a very interesting challenge. And maybe let me table that with you and hear out how do you solve this. Um, a lot of projects get stuck at the AI committee layer. Like the reason is that it is of course representative of a bunch of different departments and senior leadership across departments, right? Um, so I think kind of prioritization of what should be done, risk mitigation, and like there's a lot of swirl, as they call it, at this layer that a lot of leaders tell me about. Um, do you face this? If you have, how have you solved it? If you have solved it?
Yeah, I'm not going to claim that we are perfect, right? Like we have our own challenges. We're a global company with its own complexities. But one thing that was very clear when we established this AI council, it's chaired by our chief AI officer, who's extremely pragmatic in his approach, Bhavesh Dayalji. When he collected a group of people based on the capabilities that were required to lead this council, we were very clear that we were there to remove roadblocks, not to create new ones. So we didn't want it to be heavy governance across everything that is going on, but we were there to remove roadblocks, yet making sure that we had responsible practices as we were deploying AI across the organization. So the mandate of the AI Council wasn't to look at and scrutinize every single use case that comes through within the organization. Let's take me as an example. Before I got into my current job, 8 months ago, I was part of the AI Council in my previous role. And it was very clear my role in the AI Council was to represent the voice of our people as to what they need in order to bring them along this journey. And everybody was asking for training. So my role was to lead in collaboration with the AI Council and my leadership team on what we deployed, as we called it, AI for Everyone learning course that we made mandatory for all 42,000 employees. And my job was to remove roadblocks to make sure we get it out there as soon as possible and work with all of the different stakeholders. So, the challenges are there in a global organization in terms of collaboration and communication, but we figured out a way to navigate it because we were very clear as an AI council that our job was to remove those roadblocks.
Yeah, not create more, but to remove them and help aid the process in moving forward. I think that makes a lot of sense. Girish, how do you think about prioritization? Because another thing that a lot of leaders tell me about is, hey, you know what, like everyone has tens of use cases. I think you've done a phenomenal job of like crowdsourcing a bunch of these ideas, sparks from your team. So now it's just available so people can just use it, right? Like, so, and more the usage, the more okay, I want to invest in these things. I think that's like the obvious thing to do. So that makes a lot of sense. But um, a lot of things are not so easy, like when they require integrations with Workday or ServiceNow, Salesforce. I'm just taking names, but like enterprise applications. um, like how do you prioritize the use case, and how do you like say that as a group of leaders, cross functional leaders, how do we say, okay, this goes first or that goes first?
Yeah, in some cases, you don't require prioritization. So for the grassroots movement that we wanted, so that as many employees were going into Spark Assist. So what we did was when we launched AI for Everyone training course, we made it mandatory because I've been pitching AI training as a life skill, not just as a professional skill. And so is every other leader within this organization, to make sure that we're truly equipping our people to face what the society is about to face, not just S&P Global. And AI is sort of seeping into our lives, right? Not just our careers or our jobs within the company. But when we launched the training course, a requisite of training course is you have to complete the training to get access to Spark Assist. So everybody automatically got enrolled into Spark Assist. That largely created this momentum of people creating different prompts and turning them into sparks. And we didn't want to prioritize that. We were like, go have fun. Make sure you're using it responsibly, but go have fun and create as many sparks as you want. And so that's really led to almost close to 70% participation across our workforce and usage within the platform.
Wow.
And then there's the big use case, which requires investment, requires resources, likely requires commitment from the leadership, because it has tangible benefits either from a customer or from an employee point of view. Those got prioritized in tandem with our business leadership, where they have created a program and structure around those use cases, because the level of investment that is going in, and it truly has tangible outcomes that we are trying to drive, either in terms of customer experience or our people's experience from an effectiveness perspective or efficiency perspective.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So you take so you got that people call it citizen developer, so I'll just call it the citizen developer movement.
Sure.
Going with the Spark Assist platform. By the way, I did read up on the press release, etc. that you did. So like I do think that's a very good way of getting everybody involved in this. So that's great. Uh, and then for the bigger ones that require higher amounts of investment and maybe like integration, like all of that work, etc., and security reviews, all of that, you're saying let's look at the ROI, let's look at not just the ROI, like let's look at the overall value it provides to the business. Might not just be like cost savings, but or increased revenue, but whatever it is, like employee experience, customer experience, revenue, whatever cost reduction, whatever the ROI is, and then prioritize based on that. Um, for those specific use cases.
Spot on. Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense, Girish. Now, this brings me to kind of the next question, right? Like 70% adoption of Spark is, by the way, is amazing. So when you got to that kind of like in the journey of getting to the 70% adoption, I'm sure there would have been people who were like, and I get this all the time, right? From my own organization, like we are an AI company. So I'm sure you got this too, right? Like, what will happen to our jobs, right? How does this impact, like there's a lot of fear, right? Like there's no question about it. So we've got people, I got asked in a town hall even very recently, right? And i'd love to take I'd love to have your take, understand your take. How did you navigate? A, what were the concerns people said, or what are the concerns people expressed? And B, how did you kind of navigate through them? Maybe some of these concerns might not be completely navigated already. So, like, what are some of the concerns, and like whatever you've been able to navigate, how have you navigated those?
Great question, Adit. And there are a lot of unknowns, so you can't be definitive around any of these concerns, because there isn't necessarily a playbook that clearly lays out what the overall impact is going to be. Because the technology, as much as how sophisticated it has become, and the use of AI is definitely maturing by the minute and by the second, there's still a lot of unknowns in terms of what it can do and what it cannot do, just because of the evolution and the pace associated with it. But what I would say is, like, the fear is real, right? Any change that impacts people personally, you can't dismiss that. You do have to acknowledge it. In our case, or in my case, I focus on reframing it. And what I mean by that is, let's take HR as an example. AI can truly eliminate repetitive tasks. So HR professionals can focus on what they do best, which is solving human problems. So, for example, if AI now drafts the first pass of job descriptions or policy documents, it actually gives us more time to coach, connect, and strategize, and balances people's workload. That is also a consideration in large, complex organizations. The other thing is lack of information, context, and education also fuels this fear of replacement. So focusing on upskilling our people to become more AI literate so that they can use these tools with confidence and not caution is equally important.
So it's interesting how you said the first thing, right? Like that, to say it is ever evolving, right? Like when I think we had never imagined 3 years ago when it dropped for the first time that it would already be here, and then the pace of change is accelerating. I think never has been a time in history of humankind where pace of change is just so fast. Like it's always a curve that's going like this, but I think it's just become almost vertical at this point,
Totally.
right? And uh, and like earlier people used to say that, okay, I'm going to get this, I'm going to do my master, I'm going to do my bachelor's, and I'm going to do my master's, and hopefully I would have collected enough skills for a lifetime, right? And now I think you start a bachelor's degree. If those skills just last you those 4 years is a very big deal. You know what I mean?
I completely agree. As I was speaking to the junior summer experience program interns that we have, uh, they're mostly from high school, right? Or some of them are from college and still sort of contemplating what they're going to do in terms of their further education. My counsel to them was the three things that you probably have to keep in mind as it relates to your experience on through your education. First is still pick an area of expertise, because you want to be known for some intellect that you have gained through your education, whether it is you want to be an engineer, you want to be data science, you want to be an economist. You still want to have an area of expertise that you can identify with, and which also follows your passion.
Yeah.
Second is understand how AI is going to impact your AI area of expertise so that you can speak with conviction on how you can pivot with utilization of technology, particularly AI, while utilizing your intellect. Third is harness the power of human connectivity. Just area of expertise in AI is not going to get you your next gig. People who can focus on judgment, behavioral acceptance, creative thinking, cognitive ability are going to be more valued. So it's the combination of these three is what you have to be mindful of, not just the traditional degrees that we did when we were first getting into our sort of higher education.
I think very beautifully put, Girish. I get this question a lot on what do you tell the next generation. I think that's exactly what you tell the next generation, right? Like you have an area of expertise which is aligned with whatever your passion is, right? Like second you said was, understand how AI is going to impact it, because that's what's going to make you more valuable. Um, or I would actually say relevant, not
Yeah.
even more valuable in this world. And the third is understand the limitations and bring the human to the table, um, because more and more, you realize that, that's right. I was watching a movie, I forget the name, a few weeks ago, and it was very interesting. So um, there was an accident that happened, and it was like a humanoid, right? Real looking. Other people could not like say this is not a human. So the accident happened. Someone told the AI, like the humanoid, that, hey, take us to the nearest hospital with the fastest route, right? And they ended up at a uh, like a hospital for pets.
Oh, wow.
Right. This is in the movie, of course, it's all fiction, but I think that kind of enunciates the point that you were making, that find what makes us human, and kind of hone in on that. And it's going to be different for every kind of job role, it's going to be different for every kind of industry. um, but I do appreciate how you've kind of packed this in very simple 3 points, Girish. um, Changing gears and coming to what you think, or what are the areas you think AI will scale the fastest in, right? I think there's always going to be a few areas where you're going to see very, very crazy adoption, fast adoption. Like, for example, I think right now leaders are afraid of, they should be, of unleashing AI on customers. Like any CIOs, CHR, or any CEO I talk to, they're like, what, I fully trust that it will be ready someday, but today, because it just takes one incident for, especially for publicly listed companies, to lose market share, right? To lose market cap, right? So um, I think everybody's kind of focusing on internal kind of use cases. Do you think that's like, Girish, do you think that that's an opportunity for like HR leaders to kind of also get the technology focus that probably was not there, because all the not all the budget, but always the budget would go towards other functions first and then come to HR? Like, do you think that's an opportunity, Girish?
Oh, absolutely, right? I think I believe in running HR like a business.
Yeah.
So HR can still get its funding as far as there's the business case and ROI associated with it, right? And I think there, I have many peers, many CHROs in other companies who've been very successful at this, either former CHROs or current CHROs. I do think it's a misnomer that HR can't get money. I think it's all about how do you ask for it and what's the business case around it. But going back
Yep.
to your previous question about where I see pace of change, I'll talk about a couple of things. So let's first tackle the whole aspect of collaboration and communication, right? Many organizations have actively used technology to enable collaboration across their global footprint. Our team spans time zones, cultures, languages. Collaboration isn't optional for us. We won't be able to operate as a company if it was. It's actually essential. So while leaders and colleagues have always relied on technology, even at S&P Global, to bridge geographies, I do think agentic AI brings an added layer of intelligence. It doesn't just transmit information, it contextualizes it, which promotes further collaboration. Tools like, AI-enabled live translation, contextual summaries, and real-time collaboration assistance can remove friction in global organization. One of our teams, interestingly, piloted an AI use case whereby a team in India held a meeting overnight, US time. AI captured the discussion and identified action items and provided a digest to stakeholders in New York when they logged on the next morning. And this minimized the redundancy and ensured continuity in terms of their delivery. Another example was, we had a cross-regional team use AI to translate team discussions and highlight key decisions across multiple languages. Talk about like true global collaboration in action. So I
Yeah.
do think there's so much maturity and sophistication in terms of collaborative technology with AI that is definitely an area of focus that many organizations can benefit from. Let me maybe quote another example in the area that I know well, which is
Yeah.
leadership and development and what AI can do. AI absolutely since it can analyze signals like engagement, network influence, growth mindset to help us spot high potential talent early. From there, we can recommend personalized assignments, development, mentorships, and even learning paths. We are right now at S&P Global looking at a strategy where we can look at capability matching that uses AI to align internal talent with open projects based on their skills and aspirations. So AI, if leveraged appropriately and effectively from a talent management perspective can help us find future leaders that are hiding in plain sight, right? Yes, it's one of the most exciting applications, I think, and agentic AI can spot those early indicators of leadership potential, so that we can appropriately develop, leaders who are maybe 10 years out, but could be the CEOs of the future, and
Right.
start developing them early on.
Right. So it's like, again, kind of going back to what we discussed at the start, right? Like scaling something that you can't just possibly find enough humans for, right? I was at a dinner, recently, and one of the things that we kind of talked about was having AI do things that either you can't hire people for, right? Or humans just don't want to do it or should not be doing, right? That's basically the kind of work. Because there's also like the work where Leena helps people kind of automate IT, HR, finance, help desk, right? Like those element, like I'm very sure nobody grew up in their like school or undergrad and was like, hey, I'm gonna get up in the morning and I'm gonna close 100 password reset. I'm just making things up, but yeah, nobody kind of grew up with that in mind, right? So either people don't want to do it, can't do it, or you can't hire, like you can't just hire people for that, right? Like I think that's a very good direction, Girish. One last question before I close this off, and that's your learnings, right? So I'm sure you've gone through a lot, right? Like you mentioned specifically in HR, you've built, you're using agentic AI for the pulse surveys and being able to go through all the textual inputs in your pulse survey and give you some insights on that. You're using agentic AI in many different areas with all the sparks, etc. Over 2,000 sparks. So. Uh, what's your like what are some of the learnings on what you could have done better, or when organizations who are probably a little earlier than you in this journey, what would you give tell them, or so that they don't make the same mistakes that you might have made?
Oh, that's a great question, Adit. I'll probably have a twofold question for this. One around just general, perspective on how to manage change, and the other one, I want to talk about the role of HR, which is so critical. So, in terms of a general perspective, and as you said, you rightly noted that I talk in a three-pronged approach. So I have another three-pronged approach here in terms of my sort of sharing. As organizations are going through change with AI, there are three C's that I would highly recommend that they're being mindful of. And many organizations are doing this successfully. It's only for the ones who may not have thought of this. The first is context. People react much better when you provide them with context as to why AI is evolutionary for your organization, why it can generate different ROI, and why you need to disrupt yourself before someone else does. Second is communication. The more you do knowledge sharing, the more you communicate with people, provide ongoing updates, people tend to react much better. In the absence of information, fear of unknown kicks in. Third is care. Don't assume everybody is on this journey just because you are. Meet them where you're at. So you will have to design personalized, change management plans by different businesses and functions, because not everybody is going to get on the bus right away. It is hard work, but it's going to pay off when you make it more intentional. My second perspective I was going to share is the role of HR leaders and how that's evolving. I do, with all conviction, believe that HR leaders must become translators, bridging the gap between AI's potential and people's needs. We need to be data fluent. We also need to be ethically grounded, and we need to be emotionally intelligent at the same time. Like the future of HR isn't about just managing processes, it's about shaping cultures in this increasingly intelligent ecosystem that is about to be upon us. So we're not just adjusting to adapting to AI, we're actually co-creating the future of work with it. So the next generation of HR leaders will have to be part strategist, part technologist, but always human.
Very well said, Girish, especially the last part. I think part strategist, part technologist, and of course always human. um, I do believe that at this point every business unit owner, or like every business unit is has to get some understanding of AI to be able to do their job of the future. Like if they know how to do their job here, and let's say the market is going to make their function go here, they have to make the jump, and learning AI absolutely will get them there. But with that, thank you so much, Girish, for taking out time and doing this. I think I can go on for 3 hours, but I know uh, we have a hard stop. So thank you so much for taking out time and doing this. Thank you so much for the practical nuggets and the actual real life use cases that you've already achieved at S&P Global. I think our listeners will have a great time and a lot of learning to get from this one.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for creating this platform to get this important message out. I think we all can learn from this, and I've certainly learned from other podcasts that you've done with other accomplished leaders. So thank you again for having me here.
Absolutely, Girish. Thank you.